Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Tuesday and welcome to Pagan Problems. So, I'm going to make a statement. The world is in a disturbing condition. Does anyone disagree? If you do, let me know in the comments and please explain to me your rationale for that kind of unbridled optimism. But moving on from that, and I think it's important to understand what precisely has gone wrong, why it went wrong, what were the contributing factors, what were the coincidences and unforeseen circumstances that worsened it. But we have to do this kind of analysis with a view to improving the situation. Now, speaking of visions of improvement, it is good to have an internal vision of what you would like to see, ideally, in the world. And then it's even more important to let go of your vision of perfection and to readdress your mind to what is actually possible. Once we break mentally free from all of the ideologies that are selling us one form of utopia or another, it's vital that we don't get sucked in by our own, because that is going to be much harder to break free of and much harder for us to see reason about. But life is always going to be life, isn't it? All of the ups and downs. People are always going to be people, complete with their faults and foibles along with their good qualities, and they do have them, even if they aren't always on display. But moving on, the point is that perfection is not something that exists in nature, of which humanity is a part, so we should not expect to see perfection in society, perfection in governance, in commerce, in religion, or in any facet of our existence. Perfection is not going to happen. Now, like many other pagans, I would like to see a world in which pagan faiths are just a normal part of society. I mean, the absolute dream would be a pagan-centric world, but again, we are adjusting for realism here. And so that's why I'm setting the benchmark for being a normal part of society. I mean, just think of all of our common sense wisdom that we have in our pagan proverbs, the Havamal, Celtic triads, the benefits that we have from Greek and Roman philosophers. I mean, just imagine if these things were more widely taught, more widely known, something that just people had at least some peripheral awareness of. What a boon that would be to their lives, especially if they applied some of that wisdom. Whether they venerate their ancestral gods or not, they would still benefit from the ideas. And I think this is the key to moving forward. We have got to get past these ridiculous adolescent impulses that some pagans have gotten trapped by presenting themselves as edgy or rebellious or just out to wreak havoc on others in society. And this will also require a resounding, unapologetic, implacable rejection of leftist politics. I encourage all of my pagan brothers and sisters who might align themselves with the left to take a very serious look at the premises of that ideology and the track record of it, along with the premises and the track record of paganism when applied. It will not take long to find contradictions between the two. Are you a pagan or are you a leftist? Because the decision has to be made, because these ideas are antithetical to each other. And if we had not had an absolute infestation of leftist politics into our resurging religions back in the 60s, this wouldn't even be an issue. It would not be a question. It certainly would not be considered to be the default position. Now, once our community gets beyond attention-seeking theatrics and it gets beyond politics that are wholly incompatible with our spirituality, then we can forward the good and the practical ideas of paganism and show by the way we live our lives how valuable those ideas are. Talk is cheap, but if people can see how the idea in your head has led to better behavior and better outcomes for you, then they are going to take that seriously, especially since people are needing stability. Pagan philosophy can provide that, but only if we present ourselves as sensible human beings who are not hostile towards their neighbors. That is the first step towards opening their minds, and once their minds are open, they might say, oh, that's a good idea, I can use it, and oh, look, the world is suddenly just a little bit better. Now, in the Western world, it is by no means as perilous to be pagan and to be known as pagan as what it was a generation ago. Progress has been made. There's a world of difference between being subjected to nasty criticism rather than facing physical assault. And obviously, it goes without saying that the world would be a much better place if we all remembered our manners and behaved decently and civilly towards people, regardless of faith. But that's not the world we live in, and it's unfair, but Despite that, there is an argument for making a resolution within ourselves to conduct ourselves better than those who criticize us, to be more honorable and more civil than the people who, come onto our platforms or spam our pages or whatever else that they do, who are opposed to us, who are essentially just trying to use us as a scratching post. Now, if someone walks into a pagan group and creates a ruckus, as some people unfortunately do, do they deserve stern treatment? Of course they do. After all, we are not walking into churches and disrupting people with lectures about how they need to return to their ancestral gods. I think the principle and the give and take is pretty clear here. But I think it is possible to combine firmness, even sternness, and civility. And by civil, I mean responding to outrageous behavior in a more dispassionate way, refraining from the swearing and the name calling that, many people who criticize us resort to, and actually dealing with the issue at hand and not just the attempts to bait people. And of course, this isn't easy. I have failed on many occasions, imperfect creature that I am, and I'm sure I will fail again in the future, but I can resolve to do better. And sometimes doing better just involves taking a deep breath and literally counting to 10 before responding to something. It actually does help, at least a teeny tiny bit. But every time someone, whether it's me or you or any one of our pagan brethren, anytime they have an improved interaction, that lays a groundwork to improve the pagan standing in the world. And the more pagans who make a practice of this, who strive to be reasonable under pressure, and who live their spirituality and let the benefits of their deeds speak for themselves, the better and more effective that groundwork is, especially over the long run. Because we've got to remember that societies don't rally together as a result of legislation or other forms of legalism. And even if we think about major events and disasters, when people will come together for a time, once that disaster's passed or once the excitement of an event is over, it starts to fade away. So it's not a long-term solution either. But what does bring people together in a much more permanent way and promotes mutual tolerance is simply by showing mutual respect. Not just talking about it, but actually doing it. Being a good neighbor, being a good friend, and just promoting general goodwill. That will bring us much closer to the vision. Those are my thoughts on that this week. Let me know what you think now in the comment section below, or better yet, come see me on Guilded. There's a link to join us in the description box below. The server's name is Blackbird's Brew. Just click on it. It will take you to us. Introduce yourself, and we can continue this conversation. But that'll do it for this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.